Welcome back, fear fiends, to our regular dive into YouTube to find what deliciously dark delights await us. Today, we look at found footage.
The Backrooms web series by Kane Pixels is a canonical example of analog horror and found footage, centered on a fictional 1990s research institute named Async. After inadvertently creating a spatial anomaly called the Threshold, Async discovers and begins documenting the complex, an alternate reality of endless, non-Euclidean yellow office spaces and concrete corridors. The debut short, Found Footage, shows a cameraman who no-clips into this dimension and is immediately hunted by an aggressive, mutated humanoid creature known as a lifeform. Subsequent videos are presented as a mix of internal async recordings, compromised motion camera footage, and leaked documents, revealing the Institute's attempts to study and, horrifyingly, commercialize the increasingly dangerous dimension. The overarching narrative explores the cosmic dread of the complex's confusing physics and its effect on reality and time, documenting the tragic sequence of events that lead to countless disappearances.
The Tunnel is an Australian mockumentary-style feature film focusing on a small documentary crew led by investigative journalist Natasha Warner. In 2007, they venture into the labyrinthine, abandoned railway tunnels beneath Sydney's St. James Station, seeking a story about a rumoured government cover-up following an unexplained, abrupt cancellation of a water recycling project. They suspect the disappearance of local homeless people is linked. Armed with video equipment, the crew quickly discovers that the tunnels are occupied by far more than ghosts. They are stalked by a tall, monstrous, anthropomorphic creature that moves with incredible speed and hunts in the dark. The film documents their frantic attempts to escape the underground maze, culminating in a violent struggle where the creature's vulnerability to light is briefly exploited, though not without the devastating loss of crew members.
The Smiling Man, 2015, is a highly acclaimed short horror film known for its suspenseful, psychological terror. The film focuses on a young girl who is home alone one night and finds herself being stalked by a disturbing, supernatural figure. This entity, known only as the Smiling Man, possesses an unnervingly wide and persistent grin and uses seemingly innocuous items, such as a set of balloons, to lure the girl into a false sense of security. The footage is captured from the perspective of the house's security cameras and ambient light, maximizing the tension with minimal dialogue. As the encounter escalates, the girl's eerily calm demeanor in the face of escalating dread, coupled with the antagonist's mesmerizing and horrifying presence, creates a chilling, unforgettable experience. Director A.J. Briones noted the film functions as an allegory for facing the predatory nature of the world.
Mimic is a supernatural short film that plunges a group of urban explorers into a terrifying, claustrophobic scenario within an abandoned, decaying building. The explorers, documenting their nighttime venture, initially capture only the usual unsettling sights and sounds of a derelict structure. However, the footage soon begins to record something far more sinister. The team realizes they are not alone when they start hearing their own voices, and the voices of their team members, calling out to them from the darkness, perfectly imitating their pitch and tone. This unsettling discovery reveals a patient, predatory entity that hunts by using vocal mimicry to separate and confuse its victims. The film captures the raw panic as the explorers' trust in their own senses breaks down, leading to a desperate, chaotic flight as the unseen monster closes in, tracking their fear through the sounds of their own fear-stricken voices.
Local 58 is a seminal analog horror series presented as a collection of intercepted or recovered broadcasts from a fictional public access television channel in Mason County, West Virginia. The footage spans decades, showing various station interruptions and hijacked programming that explore an overarching plot of cosmic horror. Each short video begins with the familiar aesthetic of old television before abruptly descending into the surreal and terrifying. Recurring themes center around a sinister, non-human entity associated with the moon. Key segments include an emergency message demanding mandatory suicide and a weather alert warning viewers to never look at the moon. The series uses the low fidelity and visual glitches of vintage media to great effect, creating a deep sense of dread and conspiracy, suggesting a covert and relentless force is attempting to breach the human mind through media and ultimately end humanity.
Rorschach is a slow-burn found footage film documented primarily through the lens of a paranormal investigation. Two professional, scientifically minded investigators are called to a suburban home by a young mother who reports unsettling phenomena, including disembodied sounds and unexplained movement of objects. Initially finding no evidence, the investigators leave several cameras running to document daily life. The resulting footage, however, begins to capture subtle yet unmistakable proof of escalating supernatural activity. The film expertly builds tension through a series of minor, consistent disturbances that make the house feel increasingly hostile and dangerous. The investigators are forced to abandon their goal of debunking the claims, realizing the footage they've recovered captures a terrifying truth about the entity inhabiting the home, which eventually turns its attention and violence toward the living.
Savageland is a chilling mockumentary-style horror film that investigates the aftermath of a brutal 2011 massacre in the small border town of Sangre de Cristo, Arizona, which left 57 residents dead. The narrative centers on Francisco Salazar, a resident and amateur photographer who is the sole survivor and subsequently convicted of the murders. The core of the film focuses on a recovered roll of Salazar's 35mm film, which is dismissed as fake evidence by the courts but authenticated by independent experts. The photographs reveal a nightmarish chronological sequence of events, depicting grotesque, contorted, zombie-like figures attacking and devouring the townspeople. The documentary structure uses interviews and reports, concluding that Sangre de Cristo was merely in the path of a growing, migratory horde, suggesting a widespread, uncontained crisis.
No Through Road is a tense, atmospheric found footage web series that centers on a group of teenagers who make a fatal decision to take a shortcut down a secluded, titular road. The initial footage shows the friends quickly realizing they are caught in a terrifying, repeating time loop, unable to escape the same landmarks and road signs no matter how far they drive. The psychological horror intensifies with the introduction of a relentless, mysterious masked man in a fedora who begins to stalk and attack the trapped victims. Subsequent entries in the series explore the fate of the sole survivor, James, who is inevitably drawn back to the same looping road and the same inescapable masked threat. The series is a masterclass in slow-burn dread, exploiting the anxiety of being hopelessly lost and pursued by a silent, predatory entity.
The Museum Project is a found footage short film centered on a group of university students working on a media assignment about local folklore. Their subject is a disused railway museum rumored to be intensely haunted. Initially skeptical, the students plan to create a sensational documentary by trespassing onto the museum grounds late at night, believing the spooky atmosphere will make for good footage. Armed with their cameras, they venture into the darkened train cars and storage areas. Their playful investigation quickly turns to terror when they begin to capture unmistakable evidence of escalating paranormal phenomena. The footage documents their panic-stricken realization that the local ghost stories are true, culminating in a desperate flight as the unseen entities within the historic museum grounds aggressively make their presence known.
Other Side of the Box is a high-concept short film that uses a found footage aesthetic to document a terrifying moral dilemma. The tension begins when a man named Ben receives a mysterious, unmarked box from his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. The accompanying note explains a simple, terrifying rule: a person must always maintain eye contact with the box, as a predatory, dripping wet humanoid creature will move the moment it is unseen. The footage captures Ben and his girlfriend Rachel struggling with the relentless vigilance required to keep the entity contained. When Ben leaves to find answers, Rachel is left alone for a tense, claustrophobic vigil. The short film expertly builds suspense as the creature's manipulative nature is revealed, showing that the only way to escape the curse is to pass the box to an unsuspecting victim, leading to a dark, inevitable conclusion about the true cost of survival.